By the mid-1200s, Islam had lost control of the Iberian Peninsula. The only thing that was left was a kingdom of Granada. Muhammad I, founder of the Nasrid dynasty, was able to keep control because he eliminated all of his other rivals. On the Alhambra, Muhammad built his new palace city on top of older ruins. Rising above the city on Sobaka Hill, the original terraces, layout, gardens, and water features were originally inspired by older palace cities like Medina al-Zahara, which was built by Abdul Rahman III outside the city of Cordoba in the 10th century. The practice of a sultan building a new palace city has a long tradition in the Middle East and in Spain. At the Alhambra, some of these original features are now obscured, but recently, new gardens and some of the terracing have been restored. While the Alhambra is beautiful, it's also a fortification. The Alcazaba juts out and provides a strategic vantage point from which to see the surrounding areas. Inside the Alcazaba are the ruins of the soldiers' quarters. The soldiers lived in close proximity to the Nasrid palaces and provided protection for the Sultan and his household. Successive rulers added new palaces, gardens, and expanded the Medina, or the city portion within the fortifications. Today, the foundations of the Medina have been located, and we can tell there was a thriving center of production, making a wide variety of products, from pots to leather goods. But the success of the Nasrid dynasty was not to last, and they lost control of Granada in 1492. Two of their formidable enemies, the Christian kingdoms of Castile and Aragon, had made an alliance through the marriage of Isabella and Ferdinand. Their combined strength was too much for this ailing dynasty, and after a long siege, the Moors were finally forced to turn over the keys to the city. Thankfully, the Spanish monarchs had an appreciation for Islamic architecture and preserved the Nasrid palaces. In addition, they set aside funds for their upkeep and preservation. Their grandson, Charles V, also had an appreciation for Islamic architecture. He renovated some of the palaces and even started to build a new Renaissance-style palace on the Alhambra. However, as time marched on, the Alhambra was neglected. The Spanish monarchs were no longer interested and abandoned the palace complex. Locals repurposed the buildings into taverns, courtyards were used as sheep pens, and the large water tanks were used for laundry. But this sad state of affairs might have helped the Alhambra's survival. During the Romantic era, a renewed interest in the Middle Ages and Oriental culture became fashionable. Even more so, the ruins of this once great culture intrigued and captivated the imagination of Romantic artists and writers who visited the sites. One of the most notable writers was the American Washington Irving, who wrote the Tales of the Alhambra. These artists and writers not only documented the current state of the Alhambra, but ignited interest in conserving and restoring the palace complex. Today, the Alhambra is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is one of the most visited monuments in Spain.